What's going on?
So, what day are we on here? Three. Well, is it day 3?
It's not like one.
No, it's like 4. We worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today's Thursday.
We didn't work yesterday, technically on the Coop.
Literally like a day and a half. Really.
Yesterday, shit, a day and a half. So yesterday was a rain day, but we did load up a Coop. I think we got that on video. Putting on the board and batten siding, and I've been starting to side the back of the hen house. If you get a nice shot around the purlin.
That beautiful cut. First try.
Yeah. Cutting it around the purlins that are hanging out. And then, so he's going to go along, put all the boards on, and then he's going to finish it up by, we'll rip up a bunch of little battens to cover up the seam. And that gives it that board and batten look. This is just like how they used to do barns, 200 years ago, before the technology was there to make plywood. Yes, that ladder, I'm sure, is rated for a man of his size.
Yep.
Looks like it's well supported.
So here we are. Finally stopped raining for a little bit. So we got some catch up to do. I heard we had some questions.
Yes. Is the cedar toxic?
Let's go over there where it's not so noisy.
Aren't all the chickens gonna die?
That actually is a good question. Is the cedar toxic? So basically, the answer is yes and no. Now, what we're doing here is we're framing out the entire coop in cedar. And right now, you definitely smell it, and that smell is going to go away. But when we refer to cedar being toxic with chickens, we're not talking about the framing. We're talking about the bedding material you're using inside your hen house. And when you use cedar for bedding, from, we all think about when we were kids and had hamsters to whatever, you smell that cedar smell. That's because it's fresh. And if you use cedar shavings inside a hen house and it's small, which you see a lot with a lot of chicken coops, unfortunately, and they're not well ventilated, it can very easily become a problem because chickens have a very sensitive respiratory system. In our particular situation, the cedar is not an issue at all. We're actually choosing to use cedar because of its natural ability to be mold and rot resistant without the use of using pressure treated lumber. Plus, it's pretty damn cool looking. If you think about it, it gives the customer some excellent bragging rights, and you just don't see it very often. So again, to recap, the cedar is not toxic to your chickens when it comes to the framing. If you were to use cedar bedding inside your hen house and the hen house is small, not very well ventilated, you'll potentially have some respiratory issues for your chickens. So hopefully that makes sense. And if anyone else has any other questions about the cedar, please ask, or if you have any comments or thoughts, we definitely would love to hear them. What other questions have we had?
Something about the ground prep, about the loose gravel. Is that your preferred pad? And won't the chicken coop shift on you with the loose gravel?
Well, let's come over here, and it might be easier to answer that question, especially away from the noise.
I don't hear noise. I don't think they're working.
And we need to keep them working.
Because you stepped
okay.
away.
So the question is, why are we putting it on loose stone, you mean? And will that cause it to shift?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
just a ground prep.
I mean, the truth
general.
be told, this is not our ideal situation to put stone down. In this situation, one of the first things you do have to think about is water. You never want water to be sitting. And we are on a hillside, and when it does rain here, it rains a lot. And we have to think about drainage. So the primary reason the customer chose to initially bring in stone is to help it to drain. And we did have some issues. Maybe you saw in an earlier video, it was not level, so they brought in some more stone, leveled it off, and then we set the coop right on top of the stone. Now, the main thing is, we don't want stone inside the run. In this particular situation, we're going to leave the stone until the coop is done, and then they're going to come back in, retain that stone that the coop is sitting on right now, and then fill it in with soil. We want to make the inside of the run just like a forest floor. So that's just what we decided to do And will the coop move? That was the other part of the question.
Shift.
Shift.
Move.
No.
What?
If the stone was to shift, yes, the coop's going to shift. This stone is retained. It's not going to shift. That means the coop will not shift. There's always settling. That's going to happen no matter what. You try to avoid that. But the one nice advantage about having the stone, especially that this is not pressure treated lumber, you know, you could debate, you know, today's pressure treated lumber, is that going to last as long as our, you know, natural eastern red cedar? But with the stone, that's going to help keep that water away from the bottom of that wood, preventing that wet dry situation, which that's what really causes wood to eventually rot. So there are some advantages having the stone in this situation. But as far as movement, no. And that actually reminds me of something else. I know we're coming up on time. I can tell by your face. Being in California, you know, a question we get a lot is, what about earthquakes? Or, you know, we were just on the phone with a client somewhere back on the East Coast talking about putting in a concrete footer and make sure the coop can't shift. The one thing I like about our coops is it is such a solid structure that if we were to ever think about, in this case, earthquakes, the easiest way I can explain it is think about it like a boat in the ocean. You know, we don't want to anchor it down into the ground because that actually could cause more damage to the structure versus the entire thing sliding on the surface of the ground. So hopefully that makes sense. I know we get that question quite a bit about should we anchor it, should we not. If you are in a high wind area, completely different. If wind was to come in underneath this run and go, and it's going to hit the front of that hen house and then push up, that's different. Then it's like a parachute. We've actually had that happen once in Maryland. Great story. I should probably post the pictures. The entire coop flipped over, moved down 100 yards down into the field. Not one thing broke. Whole thing stayed together completely. The customer could not believe it. But it can happen. So that is the one time you do want to anchor, is if you're in a high wind area. So yeah, here we are, day 3. I think we're doing pretty good. You know, the rain has not helped us. It's been a little chilly, but it's definitely warmer than where we just came from. Oh, something we haven't pointed out yet. I don't know if we did. The roofing?
No.
We haven't talked about that yet? So it's not done, and some of you might be thinking, why in the world is the roof on already? We did that simply to get a shelter because we knew the rain was coming. And I know in the final video we'll talk more about it, but this is that custom corrugated roofing we're talking about. This is to match their existing buildings. This has that flat finish. This will not rust like the other roof is that we're going to be putting on hopefully next week down in Ojai. So,
All right.
we got someone coming in to check on us. Stay tuned.